Welcome back to Gems with Genesis Amaris Kemp. With me today is Cecilia M. White, also known as CeCe. A little bit about CeCe. She's an educator, humanitarian, and entrepreneur. She is also the founder of C3 Consultants LLC, which offers tutorial, advocating, and educational services. CeCe has a passion and a gift that enables her to positively impact the lives of young people. But without further ado, let me welcome CeCe to the stage so she can share a little bit more about who she is and what she has going on in her wheelhouse. Welcome, CeCe.
Hi, I'm Cecilia, better known as CeCe White, and I am a special education teacher, and I have been teaching special education for over 10 years. I recently have elevated into being a special education director or administrator of special education in my school building. So I oversee all of the special education teachers, as well as manage and make sure that everything is going well concerning special education in the school. So one of the things that I also do on the weekends is I work with kids with special needs at a church on Sundays, and that's something that I really love and enjoy doing. And I've also worked with adults with special needs in some group homes prior to becoming a special education teacher. So individuals with special needs has always kind of been one of my passionate things since I was like a teenager.
And today we're going to be chatting about special education, really understanding what special education is, the need to advocate for special education, and special education as an overall whole. Because sometimes people who have special education and special needs, they are treated differently than someone without. And we want to make sure those individuals feel valuable, they're seen, as well as being heard, because at the end of the day, we're all on this planet for a reason and to serve a purpose. So, Cecilia, what made you get involved in special education? You said you've been in the field for a while, but was it something that you saw when you were growing up that just led you down this path?
Yes. So my mom, she was a foster parent to adults with special needs. And the first adult she had was a deaf and hard of hearing. And so at the age of 9, I learned to speak sign language to communicate with that adult. And then she got more adults in as I was a teenager. And then she kept them all the way up until like my adult life. And so that was something I was just like always willing to help. I was going to the meetings, always kind of, communicating with them. And then as I graduated with my bachelor's, and then I got into some teaching, and then I left teaching for a season and then went into group home management for adults with special needs. And I was very passionate in working with them, helping them with transitioning skills, helping them with cooking, helping them with meal prepping, helping them go grocery shopping, helping them kind of get navigate the community. So that was something that I really enjoyed doing. And then I had a moment where I kind of left that for a second and kind of just went into foster parenting myself. And I had kids in my home, but some, had special needs and some didn't. And so I did that for several years. And then I went over into special education, and I've been teaching that since 2011.
Wow, that's amazing. So it sounds like you had that seed planted in you at a young age by just watching your mother and how she would interact with the people that came into your home. And then you really just begin to grow a passion for it. And that passion may have just very well curated your purpose to really work with people with special education and special needs. And I could hear the passion in your voice as you talk about it, and just seeing you explain, not only do you do it in a school setting, but you also do it in a church setting. And then you started to foster kids of your own who came into your home, where you could really be that beacon of light, give them that hope and pour into them and just really love on them. So, from the standpoint of someone who may not understand what special education is, or may not fully understand what special needs is, can you talk about some of the negative stigmas that people with special needs face, and how can we combat that? Because ignorance is bliss. And if we don't check this, then people are going to continue with their bad behavior, and they may not know how it affects someone who is dealing with special needs in their daily lives. And it's not right, and it's time that the gruesomeness stop.
Sure. So I will start with one of the words that I really, really intensely get passionate about people not using is the word mentally retarded, because the individuals are not mentally retarded. And though that was a word that they used back in like the 1960s, 70s to kind of reference mentally challenged individuals and developmental, disabled people, we've now transitioned into now looking at more as a intellectual disability, and then we have different disabilities. So individuals with special needs may have autism, and that spectrum can go, as I like to say, from California to like United Kingdom, right? It's very broad and big, so any kid can fall anywhere on the spectrum, from a low and very high needs and more, severe, to a very high functioning adult with autism, and they can function in the world and do very great and dynamic things. And there are adults doing great and dynamic things. A disability intellectually doesn't mean that that individual can't do anything. It just means that they learn differently. And that's what people need to understand when it comes to individuals with special needs. It's a matter of that adult may not be able to function like you and I function every single day, but they can function in their own way. They can go to work. They have workshops and work centers and states that they can go, and they do jobs in schools. They function. They have systems, and they function to systems very well. And a lot of times we don't like to be systematic people, but for them, systems work. And so it's just a matter of people understanding their world and how they see it, and not kind of saying, oh, kind of laughing at that individual or teasing that individual because you don't understand how that individual learns, or they don't view the world like you view it. But we need to kind of go into their world and kind of see how they see it, right? And it's a matter of they don't have those social skills. They are kind of kept to themselves. And some are more sociable than others. Some just can't regulate their emotions. But we have regular adults who can't, regulate their emotions. So, it's just a matter of understanding that individual and what their needs are and meeting them in their need. And that's the bottom line to special education, is really meeting that child in their need, meeting that adult in their need, or just, whatever individual that you may come across. Because as I said, there's specific learning disabilities, there's autism, there's several categories, deaf and hard of hearing, there's blind and visually impaired. So, you just kind of never really know. And then you have, as I said, there are kids, like, for instance, I can say in the classroom setting, some kids are very functional when it comes to kind of reading, but they may comprehend a little differently, and they may need more visual aids. I'm a very visual learner, so I need visual aids myself. I need you to show me how I need to do something in order for me to understand. Some kids are more auditory. learners. There are adults that are auditory learners. All you need to do is hear it and then you can do it. So it's just a matter of how the brain functions. Some learn by hands and, needed more hands-on support. And that's okay. Some adults need more hands-on support. So it's just a matter of understanding their world versus your world and kind of seeing life from their perspective.
I love how you shared that because it definitely makes sense. And I think for someone like you and I who have been exposed to that at a young age, we understand it. But someone who is on the outside looking in, if they don't try to put themselves in somebody else's shoes, then all they're doing is making assumptions. And we've all heard the saying, when you make assumptions, you make an ASS out of you and I, because you are looking at the surface level versus going deeper. And one thing that I really liked about the special education program here in Texas, specifically speaking about Houston, when I was in high school, 11 years ago, I think, yeah, 11 years ago, we had a program called PALS, Pair Assistant Leadership and Supervision, where we would pair up with either an elementary age student, a middle school student, or a high school student who had special needs, and we would go work with them for a certain period of time. And it was a specific class where we went and got into their world. We helped them along the way. We were buddies and we were that support system that they could lean on. But now fast forwarding to where we are now, I heard that sometimes those kids who have special needs, they no longer have a classroom for themselves because they were big on this diversity, equity, and inclusion push, and they put them in a regular classroom with the other kids. But I feel like the Board of Education needs to go back to the way it was, because those students, yes, some of them can assimilate with a big classrooms, whereas others cannot, and they need that one-on-one attention, or they need that smaller classroom setting so they don't feel overwhelmed and they don't feel the pressures, because some of the kids who do not have special needs, they never even take time to really understand someone who's going through that, and they poke fun at them. And then before you know it, that kid is having a breakdown, they're having an outburst, or something along those lines. And the teacher is already inundated with having a classroom size with 20 plus students or more, depending on what school district you're in. And she doesn't have the time to focus on that kid who has special needs. So that's where we need the para education professions to come in. That's where we need some aides and etc. But why does everything with the school system, when it comes to special education, have to be about the dollars? Why can't it be about the student learning at hand? Let's get back to the components of what education is and tackle the needs that everybody needs something different in order to be successful in life. Just because you have it and you're fine and dandy does not mean the next man or woman, boy or girl has it. So just dial it back a little bit and see what are the needs, and are you meeting those needs, or are you doing something to check the box to get the fundings from your shareholders and move on, and dismissing the kids who really do need the extra help? What would your stance be on that, Cecilia?
So that's a challenge that I'm facing now as our district is moving more towards a least restrictive environment, and that's what they consider it as. And it's more of the state of Florida. And I believe it's almost like a United States thing, right? They want kids to learn in their very least restrictive environment. And what that means is because they want them to be as inclusive as possible, it's a matter of including them into the general education classroom setting and not excluding them, because we've excluded for so long. It's now time to say, hey, we can make this classroom more diversified. The teachers just need to learn how to be more accommodating and more supportive. And we can see how well this kid can be successful in a general education classroom setting. Does that work for all students? No, it doesn't. Unfortunately, one size does not fit all. And that's my motto when it comes to special education. I can't just go and say, I'm going to just buy a one size fit all shirt put it on everybody in the classroom and expect everybody to get into that shirt. Some shirts are going to be very large. Some shirts are going to be very small on the individual. And so you're going to either have to cut the shirt so that it fits, the very large person in a way so they can still wear the shirt. And then you're going to have to take the large shirts that's on the smaller bodies and kind of modify it, accommodate it so that it's, doesn't look like it's a big nightgown in a sense, if that's a better way of putting that analogy. And so when it comes to kids with special needs, it's the classroom teacher kind of has to learn how to take that one lesson, that one standard, and kind of broaden it out to say, hey, okay, everyone needs to learn what 4 + 4 is. I can teach 4 + 4 in several multiple ways. As I said, one kid is going to need a kinesthetic. One kid is going to need to say, oh, I learned 4 + 4 automatically, it's 8. Another kid needs to visually see 4 items and another 4 items and then put that together and then count to make sure it's 8. One needs to be able to draw the 8 out, or tactile items. So one may need extended time in order to understand what 4 + 4 = 8 is. Another one is going to need to say, all right, I got 4 over here. I need a break. That's all I can do is that 4. That's enough for me for today. We can come back tomorrow, figure out the next 4. So it's a matter of accommodating every child in the classroom because it's not a one size fits all. And yes, some kids are going to need more support than others. And that's why the district is kind of moving that to push teachers into being more supportive for all their students. And then it was more of a kind of every student succeeds, right? That's what they want. That's the act that they're pushing. Every student succeeds. So even those kids that are English second language learners, our ELL students, they also need those very same supports. They don't have, significant delays or, intellectual disabilities. They just have a language barrier. So the same accommodations and supports that you would teach one with the ELL or even your lower understanding students, it's just kind of the same support that they will give a student with special needs in the classroom. And so my stance on it, I do believe that students can be successful in that model, but not all students can be successful in that model. So.
Thank you for addressing that, Cecilia. And I totally agree. I would say whatever students are successful in that model, keep it for them. But whatever students you see are lagging, then consider going back to the old way it used to be and be able to have 2 different variations going forward. And as we begin to wind down, Cecilia, I want you to leave the listeners and the viewers with some gems that you want them to remember about special needs, intellectual disabilities, and special education as a whole, because our goal here is to educate, inspire, and motivate others to have a new perspective and to bring something new to the table. Because if we're not learning, then we're not growing.
Sure. So, one nugget I would definitely say, if you suspect your child has a disability or a significant delay in learning, please make sure you advocate for your child and get your child the support they need. A lot of times, parents can be more advocative and more productive by reading to your child and you know, exposing them to early literacy in a sense, right? And so that's a matter of, you know, finding things that they can do, read signs in the house, have them understand what certain objects are and visuals, and expose them to books and materials. And that can kind of get you in a gauge of saying, oh, okay, I understand if my child, needs more supports in this area or may not need more supports in this area. Advocate. So if your child is in special education, it's important that you as a parent come in and attend those IEP meetings, the individual education plan, so you can speak up for your child. Your child is in elementary and they can't speak up for themselves. Your child may have significant delays and they can't speak up for themselves. They can't advocate. So you, the parent, have to be the advocator for your child. As far as in those that don't have kids with special needs, and you may see a kid or individual with special needs in the community, be supportive. Go and assist. Don't sit there and laugh and bully, but be supportive. Go out and help and assist in any way possible. They may be shopping in a grocery store. I know our grocery stores here at Publix likes to employ individuals with special needs, and say hello, greet them. They're not going to bite you in a sense, right? They are people just like you are and we are. So just make sure you're being cordial and extend grace to them, and be patient and kind, because these are individuals just like we are.
Those are beautiful tips. So if I could just summarize, advocate, be patient and kind, and do not laugh, poke fun, or make judgments, but instead go over, introduce yourself to that young man or woman, that boy or girl, and just be supportive. And if I would also chime in and add, I would say look for nonprofit organizations that you could become a part of, ones that share interests that you like, but also highlight special needs and overlays what special education is. And a program that some of you may or may not know is Special Olympics. You could do basketball, you could do tennis, you could do jogging, swimming. There's different physical activities that you could do with children as well as adults who have special needs. And it's a great way to connect and bridge the gap. And I'm not sure if other states have it, but there's also another program called Reach Unlimited, which is a form of a group home where you could go volunteer and you could take your spouse, your children, and et cetera, and you could see what it's like to live in a home with someone with special needs. So just make sure you look for those nonprofit organizations. And if you need community service and hours and you just want to, be the hands and feet and support someone in your community, plug in where they are, meet them at their level, and then you would see how much you can learn by just taking some time out of your day and putting yourself into their world. But once again, you just heard Miss Cecilia M. White, also known as CeCe here, and we unpack special needs, special education, and the overall of it. And she will definitely be back to discuss another segment. But as we wind down, I'm going to let her leave you with one quote and we're going to wrap up.
One quote. I would definitely just say, be the light, and shine bright. Don't let anyone dim your light.
Shine bright like a diamond. And there you have it, listeners and viewers of Gems with Genesis Amaris Kemp. Please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit that notification icon so you could always plug in for amazing segments. Also subscribe to where you're listening on all podcast platforms, and tap in with us because we are here to educate, inspire, and motivate. And as we close, we like to say peace, love, and lots of blessings. Have a wonderful day.